Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Storytime with Mr. Haque. So we have been reading the third story in this collection, I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. The story we have been reading is called Reason. So last time we began Reason, and it follows the story of Donovan and Powell, who we first met in story 2, the runaround. So now Powell and Donovan are in deep space and they are dealing with a robot called Cutie. QT as in the initials, but Powell calls him Cutie as in you're such a cutie. And this robot Cutie is very much a thinking robot, asking fundamental questions about the nature of his existence, and he finds it really hard to believe that it is Powell and Donovan who have given birth to him. And we left last time with him essentially suggesting that they would not be able to create an entity like him when they are in essence inferior to him. Donovan's muttered curses rose into intelligibility as he sprang to his feet, rusty eyebrows drawn low. "All right, you son of a hunk of iron ore. If we didn't make you, who did?" Cutie nodded gravely. "Very good, Donovan. That was indeed the next question. Evidently, my creator must be more powerful than myself, and so there was only one possibility." The Earthmen looked blank, and Cutie continued. "What is the center of activities here in the station? What do we all serve? What absorbs all our attention?" He waited expectantly. Donovan turned a startled look upon his companion. "I bet this tin-plated screwball is talking about the energy converter itself." "Is that right, Cutie?" grinned Powell. "I am talking about the master," came the cold, sharp answer. It was a signal for a roar of laughter from Donovan, and Powell himself dissolved into a half-suppressed giggle. Cutie had risen to his feet, and his gleaming eye passed from one Earthman to the other. "It is so just the same, and I don't wonder that you refuse to believe. You two are not long to stay here, I'm sure. Powell himself said that at first only men served the master, that there followed robots for the routine work, and finally myself for the executive labor. The facts are no doubt true, but the explanation entirely illogical. Do you want the truth behind it all?" "Go ahead, Cutie. You're amusing." "The master created humans first as the lowest type, most easily formed. Gradually, he replaced them by robots, the next higher step, and finally, he created me to take the place of the last humans. From now on, I serve the master." "You do nothing of the sort," said Powell sharply. "You follow our orders and keep quiet until we're satisfied that you can run the converter. Get that? The converter, not the master. If you don't satisfy us, you will be dismantled. And now, if you don't mind, you can leave. And take this data with you and file it away properly." Cutie accepted the graphs handed him and left without another word. Donovan leaned back heavily in his chair and shoved thick fingers through his hair. "There's going to be trouble with that robot. He's pure nuts." The drowsy hum of the converter is louder in the control room, and mixed with it is the chuckle of the Geiger counters and the erratic buzzing of half a dozen little signal lights. Donovan withdrew his eye from the telescope and flashed the lug sights on. The beam from station number 4 caught Mars on schedule. The beam from station number 4 caught Mars on schedule. We can break ours now. Powell nodded abstractedly. Cutie's down in the engine room. I'll flash the signal and he can take care of it. Look, Mike, what do you think of these figures? The other cocked an eye at them and whistled. Boy, that's what I call gamma ray intensity. Old Soul is feeling his oats all right. Yeah, was a sour response. And we're in a bad position for an electron storm too. Our Earth beam is right in the probable path. He shoved his chair away from the table pettishly. Nuts. If it would only hold off till relief got here, but that's 10 days off. Say, Mike, go on down and keep an eye on Cutie, will you? Okay, throw me some of these almonds. Throw me some of those almonds. He snatched at the bag thrown him and headed for the elevator. It slid smoothly downward and opened onto a narrow catwalk in the huge engine room. Donovan leaned over the railing and looked down. The huge generators were in motion, and from the L-tubes came the low-pitched whir that pervaded the entire station. He could make out Cutie's large, gleaming figure at the Martian L-tube, watching closely as the team of robots worked in close-knit unison. And then Donovan stiffened. The robots, dwarfed by the mighty L-tube, lined up before it, heads bowed down at a stiff angle, while Cutie walked up and down the line slowly. 15 seconds passed, and then, with a clank heard above the clamorous purring all over, they fell to their knees. Donovan squawked and raced down the narrow staircase. He came charging down upon them, complexion matching his hair and clenched fists beating the air furiously. What the devil is this, you brainless lumps? Come on, get busy with that L-tube. If you don't have it apart, cleaned and together again before the day is out, I'll coagulate your brains with alternating current. Not a robot moved. Even Cutie, at the far end, the only one on his feet, remained silent, eyes fixed upon the gloomy recesses of the vast machine before him. Donovan shoved hard against the nearest robot. Stand up! He roared. Slowly, the robot obeyed. His photoelectric eyes focused reproachfully upon the Earthman. There is no master but the master, he said, and QT1 is his prophet. Huh? Donovan became aware of 20 pairs of mechanical eyes fixed upon him and 20 stiff, timbered voices declaiming solemnly, There is no master but the master, and QT1 is his prophet. I am afraid, put in QT himself at this point, that my friends obey a higher one than you now. The hell they do. You get out of here. I'll settle you with you later and with these animated gadgets right now. Cutie shook his heavy head slowly. I'm sorry, but you don't understand. These are robots, and that means they are reasoning beings. They recognize the master now that I've preached truth to them. They recognize the master now that I have preached truth to them. All the robots do. They call me the prophet. His head drooped. I am unworthy, but perhaps. Donovan located his breath and put it to use. Is that so? Now, isn't that nice? Now, isn't that just fine? Just let me tell you something, my brass baboon. There isn't any master, and there isn't any prophet, and there isn't any question as to who's giving the orders. Understand? His voice shot to a roar. Now get out! I obey only the master. Damn, the master! Donovan spat at the L-tube. That for the master. Do as I say. Cutie said nothing, nor did any other robot, but Donovan became aware of a sudden heightening of tension. The cold, staring eyes deepened their crimson, and Cutie seemed stiffer than ever. Sacrilege, he whispered, voice metallic with emotion. Donovan felt the first sudden touch of fear as Cutie approached. A robot could not feel anger, but Cutie's eyes were unreadable. I am sorry, Donovan, said the robot, but you can no longer stay here after this. Henceforth, Powell and you are barred from the control room and the engine room. His hand gestured quietly, and in a moment 2 robots had pinned Donovan's arms to his sides. Donovan had time for one startled gasp as he felt himself lifted from the floor and carried up the stairs at a pace rather better than a canter. Right, so it's all going a little bit kind of out of control now. The robots seem to have revolted. Let's find out what happens next. Gregory Powell raced up and down the officer's room, fist lightly balled. He cast a look of furious frustration at the closed door, and scowled bitterly at Donovan. Why the devil did you have to spit at the L-tube? Mark Donovan sunk deep in his chair, slammed at its arm savagely. What did you expect me to do with that electrified scarecrow? I'm not going to knuckle under to any do-jigger I put together myself. No, came back sourly. But here you are in the officer's room with 2 robots standing guard at the door. That's not knuckling under, is it? Donovan snarled. Wait till we get back to base. Someone's going to pay for this. Those robots must obey us. It's the second law. What's the use of saying that? They aren't obeying us, and there's probably some reason for it that we'll figure out too late. By the way, do you know what's going to happen to us when we get back to base? He stopped before Donovan's chair and stared savagely at him. What? Oh, nothing. Just back to Mercury mines for 20 years, or maybe Ceres Penitentiary. What are you talking about? The electron storm that's coming up. Do you know? It's heading straight dead center across the Earth beam. I had just figured that out when the robot dragged me out of my chair. Donovan was suddenly pale. Sizzling Saturn? And you know what's going to happen to the beam? Because the storm will be a Lulu. It's going to jump like a flea with the itch, with only Cutie at the controls. It's going to go out of focus, and if it does, heaven help Earth and us. Donovan was wrenching at the door wildly when Powell was only half through. The door opened, and the Earthman shot through to come up hard against an immovable steel arm. The robot stared abstractedly at the panting, struggling Earthman. The Prophet orders you to remain. Please do. His arm shoved. Donovan reeled backward, and as he did so, Cutie turned the corner at the far end of the corridor. He motioned the Guardian robots away, entered the officer's room, and closed the door gently. Donovan whirled on Cutie in breathless indignation. It's gone far enough. You're going to pay for this farce. Please don't be annoyed, replied the robot mildly. It was bound to come eventually anyway. You see, you two have lost your function. I beg your pardon? Powell drew himself up stiffly. Just what do you mean, we've lost our function? Until I was created, answered Cutie, you tempted the master. That privilege is mine now, and your only reason for existence has vanished. Isn't that obvious? Not quite, replied Powell bitterly. But what do you expect us to do now? Cutie did not answer immediately. He remained silent as if in thought, and then one arm shot out and draped itself about Powell's shoulder. The other grasped Donovan's wrist and drew him closer. I like you two. You're inferior creatures with poor reasoning faculties, but I really feel a sort of affection for you. You have served the Master well, and he will reward you for that. Now that your service is over, you will probably not exist much longer. But as long as you do, you shall be provided food, clothing, and shelter, so long as you stay out of the control room and the engine room. He's pensioning us off, Greg, yelled Donovan. Do something about it. It's humiliating. Look here, Cutie. We can't stand for this. We're the bosses. This station is only a creation of human beings like me. Human beings that live on Earth and other planets. This is only an energy relay. You're only... Oh, nuts. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. It's all very intriguing. It's all very potentially scary, isn't it? So Cutie has decided that he is superior to the humans, that he was created as an upgrade on them, that they are serving the Master, and he is the prophet. Donovan and Powell, in his eyes, have lost their function. What will happen next? What will happen next, rather? We shall find out tomorrow. Right. Have a good evening. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.